February 24, 2022, before dawn, missiles over Kyiv, the largest war in Europe since 1945, and the beginning of something new. 3 years later, it has become a kind of war nobody had ever seen, with no front line in the old sense at all, just drones, fire and exhaustion. Russian columns struck from 3 directions, from Belarus toward Kyiv, from the north toward Kharkiv, from the south into Kherson, rolling over the border before dawn, all at once, a single coordinated push, 3 axes. The expectation was Kyiv falling in days, and the world braced for it. But Ukrainian troops held the airport across the Dnipro, and Russian supply lines stretched beyond breaking point, the offensive stalled. In April, Russian troops pulled back from the suburbs of Kyiv, and the bodies of civilians in Bucha turned world opinion against them. The Blitzkrieg was over, the war entered a long, grinding second phase, trenches, artillery duels, a front line measured in meters, and neither side able to break the other. To the south, one city held out for 86 days, a fortress of steel and dust, a siege that became a symbol of the whole war. The siege of Mariupol, the Azovstal steelworks, an underground fortress city where defenders held out for months, under constant bombardment, until the last pocket fell in May, a symbol of resistance, watched worldwide. What followed was a long war of attrition in the Donbas, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, city after city flattened by massed artillery, while both sides bled for every block, and the front line barely moved for months on end, in a war of meters, grinding, brutal, and almost invisible to the outside world, the war's slow, terrible middle. The turning point was a single weapon, Himars. For the first time, Ukrainian artillery could strike Russian supply dumps with precision, from a distance, and the logistics war turned overnight. Then, in September 2022, the war suddenly changed pace faster than anyone could follow. The Kharkiv counteroffensive, in 1 week, Ukrainian forces advanced more than 100 kilometers, retaking Izium and Lyman while Russian troops fled, abandoning tanks and uniforms in the road, the war's most stunning reversal, a collapse nobody had predicted, and a signal that momentum had changed hands. In November, Russian forces withdrew from the right bank of the Dnipro. Moscow answered with a mobilization of 300,000, and the annexation of 4 regions recognized by no one. The story of 2023 was a small city, Bakhmut. Wagner mercenaries and prison recruits charged for 10 months, and took it in May, at the cost of tens of thousands of lives, and a city reduced to rubble, street by street, a battle fought for a name, the purest symbol of the grind. In June, Ukraine launched its long-awaited counteroffensive and ran straight into minefields and drone swarms. 3 months later, less than 20 kilometers of ground had changed hands, at a brutal cost. And then, in June 2023, gunfire from Moscow's own direction, the man who took Bakhmut. The Wagner mutiny, Prigozhin's column seized Rostov, advanced within 400 kilometers of Moscow in a single day, then turned back after a deal brokered by Belarus, the state's monopoly on force cracked, then closed again. In 2024, the war found its new main weapon, the FPV drone. A few $100s of plastic and explosives became the #1 killer of tanks and soldiers alike. Drones now account for the majority of casualties on both sides. From the sky, a hunt fought through screens, by pilots far from the blast. Tanks grew steel cages on their turrets, units learned night movement, electronic silence, fiber optic control. You hide from the drone, and the drone hides from you, a duel in the sky. In August 2024, the war crossed into Russia itself, Kursk, of all places, echoing 1943. Ukrainian forces broke across the border and seized 100 settlements, the site of history's greatest tank battle, entered by a foreign army for the first time, 4 months, a breach that forced Moscow to redeploy, and changed the endgame. From 2025 on, the war became a grinding loop of talks and shells, ceasefire proposals every season, artillery every night, front lines measured in meters and trenches. Both sides are betting everything on outlasting the other, and neither will admit the arithmetic doesn't work, a war of patience now. Added up, 3 years of war, casualties in the millions on both sides, cities reduced to rubble by the dozen, millions of people displaced, the deepest wound Europe has suffered since 1945, and it keeps bleeding, with no end in sight. A generation lost, a map redrawn in blood, and a peace with no shape. The weapons changed, the logic of war did not. What falls, in the end, is all.